I have a Josh. I have a question.
We're back.
All
Josh,
questions to the end of the segment, please.
Hello,
Andy
hello.
Warhol is dead. Josh, how did Andy Warhol make a cryptocurrency?
I have no idea. That's news to me. But
He's dead.
Andy
He died in
Warhol and
1987.
Andy
I was like, that guy's.
Warhol NFT is out there, and
I was like, Josh, I'm pretty sure he's dead. And I looked it up. I was like, he's been dead for like
he's definitely
40
dead.
years.
Yeah, it doesn't that make the coin worth more? Isn't this
But
the
no, my
It
equivalent
makes
of
point is,
his
how
art
did
worth
he?
more.
I don't doubt that someone made a coin somehow associated with Andy Warhol, but Josh literally said Andy Warhol made a cryptocurrency, and I was
You
like,
know,
that
I
can't
really
be
thought
true.
it was him, but I should have took a second to see if he was still alive.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, he's.
No, he's long gone.
Unless
not.
there's his ancestor
so,
named
hey,
Andy
This fucking ghost
Warhol.
came back and it's like, yes.
Alright, so if you
Last-
guys want to see
wish.
us live, join the YouTube. It's in the link below. You'll actually be able to see the articles that I'm going to be covering today. But this is Random Rabbit. Thanks for joining. Random Rabbit Wyatt, Random Rabbit Jeremy. Let's get this going. This is podcast number 13 where we cover the daily news, everything that's hopefully going to help you make better investment choices. And we hope that you guys watching, you guys will actually start investing. And if you're not investing, jump on our channel. There's like 1,000 reasons why you should probably be jumping into this market right now. And that's both stock market and crypto market. But let's just jump right into it. How's you guys this week going?
Good. Since yesterday, I'm still alive. Have all my fingers and toes, and most of my mental
Welcome.
faculties. So
No, well, that's a shame.
The fact that your toes are still intact is amazing. Good for you.
right, I almost in the middle of the night when you get hungry, you little nibbly. You know, sometimes you just go for the toes that provide the least amount of balance. That's how you stay alive longer.
Oh my
Ah.
goodness.
Survival tips.
You leave the pinky and the big toe, and those are the only ones you keep for the longest time. You just kind of like a weird T-Rex, kind of wobble around.
Alright. So let's just why it's talking about his toes and how they wibble around. And so
Wibbly wobbly.
See a doctor.
let's jump into this. So currently one of the first I'm not sure if it's one of the first NFTs from Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol has passed away, but this is a Andy
45
Warhol
years ago.
Andy Warhol NFT that has just been sold. It was sold for over $3 million. An amazing sale. The fact that some other well-known artists are jumping into the space and making their name. It was only a matter of time that technology and art finally came together and fused. What we're looking at is that the purchaser of this current NFT, and the NFT is pretty much, it's just his face 3 times identical across the screen. And what it was sold to, it was sold to the person named Justin Sun. If you are familiar with this name, Justin Sun is also associated with the cryptocurrency Tron. He is, I believe, their owner, or he's one of their big guys in NFTs. And so he actually tried making a run at one of the more expensive NFTs, which was the 69 million Beeple NFT. That was one of the, and is still probably one of the largest amounts ever paid for an NFT. You can tell that these things are making their way from the art division, and large investors are purchasing them. Now, do they carry the same weight, and are they going to have the same effect that other large art or expensive art is purchased? As in, I believe there's a type of tax write-off, or I'm talking out of my butt out of that one. But I know that rich people purchase art for the use of, transferring their money and having it as a type of asset. And
Right,
so from there, we're only going to see more individuals and I believe more expensive art coming out into this space. And this could be something that could be a potential investment. If you have, a couple $1 million to throw around, you could be looking at some of the art of the future. And so this might be something to look into.
I would like to see the resale value. I really want to know if it'll appreciate.
And
That'll be the main question.
what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the retail sale? If it's currently selling for $3 million, what's the possibility that this can, jump up to $50 million. What's the hype on this?
Given that given that I'm not an expert in neither the art field nor extremely volatile and alternative investments, I have no idea. But I know I wouldn't pay $3 million for it.
So
Yeah.
right now,
I don't know how to model that.
It's
Like, just say,
still a
like, say
new
you go to
space.
50.
NFTs are definitely a new space in which people are investing in, and there is no possible way to determine whether an art piece is going to increase in value. But this is Andy freaking Warhol. To say that this isn't gonna, compound on itself, and that this wasn't a wise investment choice. It's Andy Warhol, for goodness sake. I would have bought that painting if I had $3 million. That sounds amazing.
I'm sorry, but I love art. Don't get me wrong, but $3.3 million. I can just like get the same painting, copy paste it on my screen, have it on my screen for about like a week, get tired of it, go on to the next painting. Whoever has this has so much money that they don't even know what to do with it.
Right,
That's how I
That's
see
fair.
it.
Most people buy artwork because they're like, I've got hundreds of millions of dollars and I don't know what to do with it. So I'll
What's
buy hundreds
expensive?
of millions of dollars of art, and then I'll make my artwork in this $50 million Da Vinci painting and this $25 million shit of some fucking famous
And
artist
then
from
donate it
in the
when they
1200s. Exactly. Oh, right. I can't hear us.
Did you just mute us?
No, they can't. Josh is streaming on Instagram simultaneously, but the Instagram crowd can't hear the banter. They can't hear.
Gets it. They can't.
They don't
They
understand.
can't
So
hear
they're
your
being
guys'
gypped of
commentary.
2/3 of an opinion, which is fantastic.
So you guys are missing great opinions from Wyatt and Jeremy. Let's go on to the next topic. Something that's been emerging over the last couple months and it's been growing momentum is Ethereum 2.0. Currently, it has hit 6 million Ethereum now being staked onto Ethereum 2.0. How does it get up to $6 million? It takes individuals like you to join one of their staking pools of Ethereum 2.0. The technology itself is supposed to decrease gas fees over the long run, and currently the gas fees have plummeted in the recent times, and that could be, a number of reasons due to mining being decreased in China and other reasons where the market has now taken it took a dip, and so people either pulled out or weren't transacting with Ethereum as much as they used to. But this right now is a time to make transactions with Ethereum. With the price being so low, you can definitely benefit from it. Ethereum itself is actually looking, and as we continue this topic, Ethereum, not Ethereum 2.0, just the regular Ethereum, has in its recent time taken a bounce in the market. Now, this is also when it's weighed against Bitcoin, and it shows its momentum as the market continues to grow. And what it looks at its market value to realized value. And currently, analytics are telling us that the average risk that would have been prevented, or the realized value of the market, has decreased. So it's decreased this risk, and the realized value of the current market is below 15%. What that actually means, I have no freaking idea. This is definitely an area where Wyatt and Jeremy have a lot more say in the market. Jump onto YouTube because they're about to dump on me right now. But that just says that the momentum is still growing within Ethereum. We've looked at it about a 5% increase over the last week. If you saw the dip hit near 1700 and you didn't buy in, that's your bad, because I don't know if it'll ever go that low again. Currently, we're waiting to see if over the next 2 weeks it's going to keep the momentum, and currently it's staying above $2,000, which is looking pretty good. What we're looking at for Bitcoin, though, is we have to keep above $28,000 for it to sustain where it's at currently. If it goes below $28,000, then we're looking at dropping another $5,000 to $10,000, potentially dropping down to $18,000. But if it does stay And there's a metric called the Y kit. I'm totally butchering that name, but essentially it's an analytic telling us, where the floor is, where the ceiling is, what needs to happen in order for, I think it's the white cat, something like that, in order for the price to go up or down. And so if we keep that momentum above 28,000, that's looking really good, and we're going to continue that bull run. If it drops below 28,000, it's just going to be a minor correction. It's not to say that we're going to start the bear market, but these are just areas to look at to see if you're trying to jump into the Bitcoin market. Right now, the Bitcoin market is still at its low. It has dropped down to its 28,000, but as of right now, we're looking at it being above 30,000. This is a great momentum, and if it continues, then we're going to continue through this bull market. Just to go on.
I mean, before you go on, let me just tell you some news I just came across about 12 hours ago. Ethereum 2.0 staking is about to hit 6 million Ethereum.
It did hit it.
With 179,709 validators. So that just means that staking is the act of depositing 32 Ethereum to activate validate software. So that's just, again, mind-blowing to me, and you know more in the crypto realm than I do. So with this increase of momentum for Ethereum, I believe that just gives more backing for Ethereum 2.0 in the future.
So what Jeremy was mentioning was that Ethereum 2.0 and its amount of momentum that it's built over the course of this period of the 2.0 being formed. It hasn't come out yet. It's supposed to be coming out. It said 2021, most likely might be 2022. Technology usually doesn't stay on time, but what we're looking at is that Ethereum is building more momentum, and this is the part that Bitcoin is going to be falling behind, is that the scalability of Ethereum is now taking effect, is that more technology can be placed on top of the same technology, the old technology, and ramp it up so that it is scalable. Bitcoin is going to start running into some bumps. But before we dismiss Bitcoin, we have the NCA opening up purchases of Bitcoin to 650 banks and credit unions. Now here we're talking about Paraguay. We're talking about what was it? El Salvador. We're talking about
Mexico,
Panama, Mexico. These are all people who are, just talking about getting involved with the cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and being able to invest it. Now we have NCR saying that 650 banks will soon be able to distribute Bitcoin. That's huge news, I feel, for Bitcoin. I feel like this is going to compound on itself in the sense that as soon as society has the ability to access it in such a easy way, everybody knows how to transact with their own bank account versus transact with potentially an application like Coinbase or the entry barrier is just technology. Banks are going to be allowed to distribute Bitcoin. Why, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this?
Doesn't that mean that banks have centralized Bitcoin in
It's
a way?
coming on a world scale. And if it hits this world scale, it's just going to keep on going. More adoption, the more banks are going to be adopting it, more larger institutions are going to be adopting it. It's going to become a very real asset that you'll be able to trade for goods. I don't see a bad thing with it at the moment with the adoption of, though it's the adoption of other countries and not like China, United States, or Russia. Like it's more of these countries that are South American and everything like that. I believe this central bank is a big proponent, but go
Josh,
for it, Wyatt.
Josh, why don't you mute your microphone so we can't hear you? Because I can't hear anything that Jeremy's saying. No, I mean, like, yeah. See now, Jeremy, please. Like,
See.
can't hear anything you were saying.
No, what I was saying is that once it hits the central bank, once it hits any of the large corporation and investors, it becomes a real player in the game and it hits the world stage. So I don't know. What do you think about why I believe that it's just going to keep growing momentum, even though China backed out of it, they're still having a lot of momentum with these other countries just
So
adopting it and trying to make it a mainstream currency.
here's an interesting point about this, right? So there are only 2.67 million Bitcoin left to be mined out of the 21 million that were in existence. And it's theorized that it will take about 100 years roughly to finish mining all that Bitcoin. Then that's it. There will never be any more unless somebody changed the code. And as soon as somebody does that, every valid point about Bitcoin, about inflation, flies out the window. Just would deflate all of that. But so let's assume that it ends, right? Well, if imagine if you let your financial systems around the world start to be able to mine this, because we can distribute it. So what if they can be able to mine it or invest in mining? You'd see an influx in capital, and you would see people piling into this. Perhaps we would actually, I think we might see the end of Bitcoin being mined in our lifetime. You know what I mean? Like within the next 50 to 60 years, I think it could happen if you see much more adoption.
You
But
know,
the real interesting thing is this. I agree that you can use it to pay for goods. I mean, you can use it now. California has got 30,000 businesses that take it. Not to mention, there's six crypto or Bitcoin ATMs within a 1 mile radius of where I'm currently sitting in Southern California. So it already exists. But letting the banks buy it, I mean, that allows banks to store it, just like big players to store it. And if big entities just buy up lots of Bitcoin, they become the distributors of it. How does that decentralized? I mean, yeah, you have the blockchain, but we're not talking about the blockchain. We're talking about Bitcoin specifically. Like, how does that coin, how does the behavior just become something that you can use? Banks allow and funds allow you to use it like all other normal capital, which is fine. But if they can be distributed and hold it and store it, you know, there's
so this is where
concentration of power.
the other proponents of other coins comes into play. It's not just Bitcoin that is able to do what Bitcoin does. Ethereum is able to do what Bitcoin does. You have all these other alternative coins that are able to do what Bitcoin does because it is a blockchain system. So once Bitcoin goes down, guess what? They could continue using that currency, sure, and it will be a solidified
we're currently
currency
talking
even
about the
more so because
effectiveness of
every single
Bitcoin and how it could,
Bitcoin will be able
it
to have
will
a tag on
survive
it,
the long run.
and it'll always
There's
be in
enough
the
technology
system.
and
Then you go on
cryptocurrencies
to
that
the next currency, and that's
that
where
it
I
can
see
totally
it actually
overtake it
going.
as a
And so it's
technology. It could
the
overtake
equivalent
it
of
as something
saying,
that
"Hey,
would
Bitcoin
be
is a $100
viable
bill,
in the long
Ethereum is a
run.
$50
Short run,
bill,
we're looking at it
and
that everybody's
I
adopting
don't
it.
know,
It has a high
Ripple
price
is
value.
like the $1 bill."
Um,
So
But
I
it's
think
it,
that
but
it
to
there's
could
view
be
it
no,
as
like that.
gold,
but there's
definitely
no,
a way
like,
to see it as a long term.
it's
But
not the
to
same
view
thing
it
at
as
all
something
because
that
it's not
can
owned by the United States of
potentially
America. A
dip
$50
out due
bill is
to the
50
amount of
United
technology
States dollars.
that is taken
It
over
would
That's
in,
a
be a
very
and
world
its
specific
ability
measure.
to
currency.
But
compete
you
with
It would
other
be a
50,
world.
but
technology. That's
how could
definitely
you say
something
like
that we're going to be seeing in the
$50
long
is
run.
different per country? So you would have
If
to
you guys are
use like
just
the
joining
US
us,
dollar as the
then
benchmark, right?
jump
So
onto our YouTube. Jeremy
I
and
don't
Wyatt are
I
definitely
agree that it can be used as an
going
asset.
at
The
it.
banks want to
They're
let people
talking
use it and
about
buy it and
Bitcoin
sell it
and
and trade it. I
how
mean, anybody can get into this game. We're
the
already seeing
banks are even
huge
going to be able to
institutional
use this
adoption.
in the
But
short term, only
like,
because of
I
True.
don't see how
what
it
Bitcoin
I
is
mean,
creates
mined
more
that's only
production. I don't
as
see
that's
how it
only
allows
because
more
by the
production.
banks.
it's like a
This is something
forex
that's definitely
currency.
over my head, but
It's
if it's something
Ethereum
that
to
you would want to
USD,
even get to know
Ethereum
of,
to
this is
JPY,
something that
Ethereum
Right,
I
to
keep
because that's
learning
what
every
it
single
needs to
day.
be. Because
As it
otherwise,
needs
These
to
days
be.
are amazing.
so you have to pin them to the
Still
dollar.
going at it.
And the
Exactly.
Go
problem,
ahead and
so
jump
you
on
can
our
still
YouTube and
have
check
them
it out.
and use them, but it is, you know, using it as like a store of, with the amount of fluctuation you have with difficulties and how you actually plan to use that money, right? Imagine you had to budget a project and you had to figure out how many Bitcoin it was going to cost in the future. Unless you have contracts to lock all of that in relative to the US dollar, assuming that all stays constant, how can you plan anything? You know what I mean? Like a 6 month, 8 month, 12-month venture, over that time, your funding needs could drastically change with the fluctuation of the market. And once all the coins are mined, the volatility is crazy. There's no stability there, which makes it very difficult. Tesla's having a huge problem with accounting for Bitcoin on its books. It's a huge nightmare trying to continually price
Oh,
and
I bet.
reprice and revalue.
But the
So
thing is that with blockchain comes better code. With better code comes better coins, and it's just a progression of technology.
but I also have so I agree with that. So I don't like blockchain and smart contracts. I like cryptocurrency as it exists. I don't think any of these coins are worth anything. I think the blockchain technology and the smart contracts are already being used and do hold significant value going forward. But then when you go down that path, I am concerned that when governments start to create their own central bank tokens, you will be talking about a much bigger government approach to finance, because the government will play a much bigger direct role in financing, which
Let me ask you something.
which is scary.
When let's just say, I don't know, Goldman Sachs puts out a coin, or JP Morgan puts out a coin, these banks put out a coin, and they say, hey, the caveat is we're able to track your transactions. They paint it in a beautiful light. They say, we'll know where your money's at. We'll be able to help with fraud. We can put it on the FDIC and give you $250,000 in insurance. Yet
if
there
they
are
can,
all
I don't know if that's covered.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to say they're painting this beautiful picture in which they're saying they have your back. Do you believe the majority of retail investors, or just the majority of people, are going to look at that and say, yes, we love being tracked? I don't know. If it was just me, I'd just say, no, I don't really like being tracked on everything that I do and purchase. So what do you think the individual, what would you go for? Would you go for the JP Morgan crypto, or would you go for the Ethereum?
Neither. I would stick with the thing that actually makes any of it valuable, which is the US dollar. Because without the US dollar, none of it's worth a damn. None of it's worth anything.
I mean, I gave you two choices. Why? Don't go out of these boundaries that I'm
you
trying
can't,
to
but then
paint for you.
that's first of all, that's not America there, buddy boy. Second
No,
of all,
this isn't a democracy. This is a dictatorship. You make your choice, either or.
No,
you only have two choices.
They're both garbage choices. I don't have to choose them because the U.S. dollar is still very much a stable currency that is yet to be eradicated. But so I agree. Don't get me wrong. If people want to use it to exchange value, but it's nothing more. It's not creating more value. It rides the value that already exists like a wave. If anything, it can serve as a representation for large chunks of value by saying one Bitcoin's worth 32,000 US dollars. So you can only move certain, lower amounts of information to account for large amounts of capital. But Bitcoin hasn't created more value, because the value that it derives is in the US dollar, and anything that's created from the production of Bitcoin and the technology, well, why do people do it? Not because they don't build blockchain technology because there'll be more Bitcoin. They develop blockchain technology so they get paid in US dollars and make profit. So the entire end game is about the profit and creating more production, which means if you continue to improve production and the economy gets bigger and bigger, you need to literally make more money to account for that quantifiable change in production. So the US dollar is still the goal of the game, even with cryptos. The goal of the game is still US dollars. You trade Bitcoin, why? Worth US dollars, and you can make profit.
So let me put a pause there. This is a topic
I was about to just dig into him right now.
Hey, dig in. Hey, dig in. Go.
Jeremy,
go. Last comment. Dig in, Jeremy. Dig in.
All right. So what happens when a security in the NYSE, in the stock market, gets bought up, and let's just put an example out there. Berkshire Hathaway. Okay. When they buy the majority of their shares, what happens to the stock price?
It should go up.
It goes up, yes, but it also becomes more stable, less volatility, much less risk. And that is what I see Bitcoin doing in 100 years. When all the Bitcoin gets bought up, there is less risk. It becomes a stable coin, and it's just valued at what it's at.
Right, and that's fine. But the problem is,
I can't hear you, Josh, by the way.
Yeah, if you're talking, Josh, I can't hear you.
I still can't hear you.
So I don't think he's talking about us.
Okay.
So but the problem is, I agree with you. I agree that once it's all mined, there'll be a finite amount, and in theory, it should stabilize out, because I also find that this is a very finite supply. Eventually in the beginning, I think it'll still be very volatile until people really get over that and they realize it's just another asset that exists. So I agree with you. It'll stabilize, but it doesn't replace the value needed by other fiat currencies and by the dollar. It doesn't create more value. You can say it might be I don't think it'll ever truly be a store of value, because it's not a stable coin. It's not designed to stay. It's designed to fluctuate. You wouldn't say an investment in Apple is necessarily a store of value, even though it's much less volatile than Bitcoin. You still wouldn't say, if I was going to have a savings account it would be a good idea for me to put my assets in Apple, Google, the FANG stocks, right? You'd make a diversified portfolio of a percentage of your income. And even that diversified portfolio would have targets and risks because you still have to measure it. So even stocks and big blue chip companies that are very stable are not stores of value. Bitcoin, which is ridiculously volatile compared to them at the current time, is considered a store of value. And the problem is that even if it is a store of value, that's not necessarily the problem, right? The problem is what happens when all the value you have stored isn't enough for future production. We realized long ago, many countries did, that we were producing so much stuff. If we just kept everything on a gold standard or on a specific physical resource, there wouldn't be enough of that resource around to support production. So you would cap it off. Or would just take so long to build things, because imagine if you had to pool together $20 billion, but you didn't have as much capital as you do today. You'd have to wait for tons of people in banks to find all the money and pool it all up as collateral, and then you do that one project. But that would force individual components of the sectors in the economy to slow down. If you could produce more money, you could produce every sector. You could produce retail. You could let everything become more and more productive and grow at rapid rates, which is what happened, which is why we have such huge economies, which has been the driver of wealth. If you do it within a stable, such as the Fed's inflation target percentage and supply of money targets, if you stay within rational targets and don't flex it and bend it and do bullshit, that is how stable growth happens over long periods of time, because it takes long periods of time. But I think that
trying to say that the United States is effed because we just keep printing money and not stapled to any sort of gold standard.
But that's every single country, though, because think of it this way, Jimmy, if you didn't take it off the gold standard, would there have been enough money to actually produce the technologies and how valuable they are today to actually get to this point in time?
No, exactly. There has to be productivity. There has to be advancement. But this technology, this conversation could go on for hours.
Yeah, let's save this for a Sunday Funday conversation.
That's not the point of Sunday Funday, Josh. It's supposed to be fun.
When was the last time we talked about this? It was on a Sunday Funday where we discussed the bank's ability to overtake fiat and pretty much its difficulties that it'll run into.
Maybe, but just if I had my final salvo here, I it's funny when you think about that. If we weren't able to produce lots and lots of money at will, we wouldn't have been able to grow and scale markets big enough and fast enough to get to these technologies. And the technologies we're creating are trying to cap the supply of money. But it's funny because we needed to take the cap away to get there in the first place. It's just weird to me. It's just a weird idea that, okay, we've done enough production. We're only going to get more. Like, look at China trying to land on Mars in 2033. We're only going to need more money. The technology is only getting bigger. It doesn't get smaller. We have multi-trillion-dollar companies now. We wouldn't be possible if we didn't have all this extra money. So, because that's why we have targets in the Fed for inflation, not because we realize, we just print all the money. It's because we know we'll have to. So we need to create metrics and confine the system to keep it as orderly as possible. That we realized that long ago. And remember, the United States was the gold standard for a long time. It wasn't until World War II, I think it was after World War II, that we needed to really take it off and move forward. So,
valuable.
The same problem in the future.
Definitely valuable information as we progress further into the actual use of Bitcoin. It's going to be very interesting as how it's going to survive and mount up against our current financial system. And so with that, let's jump into the final topic of crypto, which is top analytics are talking about which are the bullish means which ones are going to go and increase in value, which ones are the bullish cryptocurrencies. And currently everybody's been talking about Ethereum. We already talked about Ethereum 2.0. They're coming out with their latest technology. That's gonna rock the world and definitely change the game with how Ethereum progresses towards the future. The second one that we've been talking about extensively has been Cardano. Cardano has been one of those that its technology is actually going to be competing with Ethereum. Some analytics are telling us that either Ethereum is going to grow stronger and decrease Cardano's value, or Cardano is going to bypass with its technology and its ability to make more transactions than Ethereum. So currently that's what's winning, and we'll see how Ethereum 2.0 comes about and starts dominating the market. But one cryptocurrency that if you heard one of our podcasts maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I slipped it in as one of those little key cryptocurrencies that you should have looked at. And if you looked at it, then you're welcome. But this is going to be Solana. Solana. I don't know why I spelled it for you guys, but Solana is definitely going to be a cryptocurrency to be keeping on your radar. This is another long-term investment, and this is actually one that, let's see, YouTuber Jason Pizzino, whoever that dude is, there's 109,000 people listening to him. He must, be giving some pretty good advice, but he's finally come out saying that Solana is going to be one of those that has the potential of Cardano and has the potential of Ethereum. And as we're looking at this, these are all going to be really good long-term investment choices. The high risk is still there, guys. Until these are established companies and have established utilities that are being used at a commercial level, these are all still going to be high risk. Just as you look at stocks and its ability to, and stocks evaluate companies and the value of that company. These are cryptocurrencies that are now starting to reflect its ability to be used in the market, in financial protocols, in banks, in other real world transactions. And so Solana is one of those that is looking solid. And to throw in just another one, if you're interested in Binance and you see that as a exchange that's going to keep taking off, BNB is its ticker, and BNB has fell 60% from its previous high, and that's saying that it was jumping, it was pumping like nobody's business 3 months ago. It dropped 60%, and if you're looking at Binance as being a potential, I don't know, I don't even want to rank it within.
Potential 100%. It's almost close to Coinbase. It is one of those names that is up there. In the future, it could be one to take over or just be head-to-head. I mean, competition is always the best in markets, and if Binance is one of those names that when you hear it, you already know about it, I don't see as to why not it wouldn't be a competitor to Coinbase.
Binance has a lot more features. Binance is able to do a lot more when it comes to your ability to trade, and it has more advanced features for people who previously had stock market experience. And if you're looking for greater analytics, Binance is the place to go. If you store in Binance, that's your choice. Definitely do your research, because a lot of these exchanges, anything dealing with crypto is going to be a high risk. Just remember that. Nothing about this is a safe market. We're looking at the stock market and seeing its ability to be manipulated. You can't say that cryptocurrencies itself aren't being manipulated in some way. And so as we currently define it as decentralized, we are moving towards a future that becomes more centralized, as more really rich people are getting their hands on it, and pretty much they're going to be making the rules.
I think the largest threat to cryptocurrency would be cybersecurity, and that's only because that I've read news that a bunch of wallets have been compromised, and that is just not okay. When it comes to the stock market, we'll talk about later on how some brokers just get overfilled with volume and then their systems take a hit. So it'll be interesting to see Binance in the future comparative to Coinbase. I know Coinbase is in like the 200s right now for their stock ticker. I don't know what Binance is at. Let me look it up really quick. BNB. And nope. I got nothing. What? $2.99.
Like $2.99.
And $299.26. Binance coin. So I don't know about the ticker, if they're even listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I don't think they are. But Binance coin USD. Binance stock.
Binance Coin is BNB, listed on the Nasdaq.
Yep, Binance Coin. Yep. So it's at $299, nearly $300. So I don't know, in the future it dropped down 40%. That's likely to occur after it IPOs. It always happens. People will get in early, take profit right when it hits, the market hits. 15 minutes in, you better just dip out of that IPO because it's just going to drop off right after that. And that happens time and time again. So just know the name of the game, how to play it, and 40% down, that sounds like a buy to me, but at the same time, just see how the company's doing as a whole. Do some I don't know, Wyatt loves doing his discounted cash flow analysis.
You need to do your due diligence. Just because people think the future is now. People thought Google Glass was going to change the fucking world. What happened to that? Huge company, lots of money, big investments, huge ideas, technologies that we even use today,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't work. And
Don't
that's
even know where
obviously
that is anymore.
obviously that's a different story specifically, but um, you you have to be skeptical and criticize and critique everything. You have to figure these things out because when Binance is $300 a share, you have to make sure that I can justify those prices, and it's not just hype. Because remember, markets are forward looking, meaning the price you're looking at is what people are speculating on baking into the price into the future. That's not the true price. It's always fighting for a price, but it's all speculators trying to figure out what it should be worth at some degree or horizon into the future.
Yeah,
So you have
weeks,
to remember that.
months
Just because
ahead.
it looks like, just because the price has a number right now that's stable, doesn't necessarily mean that's the true and best price for the asset. That's just what people are speculating in the market based on some amount of information. So
Market makers are going to kick that into the price. But we have less than a minute left until our commercial break.
Sounds
good. Do you have anything left to say, Josh?
That's it for me for crypto. We could definitely move on to the next section. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our break. Guys, thanks for joining. If you guys have time, subscribe. Be right back.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So we're going to keep moving on after the crypto segment here. So a couple of topics to talk about that are interesting in the news today. So Virgin Orbit held its first commercial space launch. So Virgin Orbit is part of the Virgin Group, which is Sir Richard Branson's group, and that includes Virgin Galactic. So you may have seen them trying to fly people into space on the back of what they call the White Knight. That's the name of that plane that's got 4 engines on it, and it looks like it's 2 planes put together. Um, and they just launched it. They had their first commercial launch. They're planning on doubling the cadence and having up to 6 flights next year, and then just kind of continuing on from there. The unique design, as I'm sure many people know, is they use Boeing 747 aircraft as the platforms to launch rockets. So as opposed to launching from the ground, they actually carry them up to very high levels, and then the rockets launch from there, which is some very innovative technology. And currently, they fly out of the California Mojave Air and Spaceport, but the island of Guam and Cornwall in the UK. But they have future sites that could include Japan, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. So definitely some interesting global expansions. And CEO Dan Hart of Virgin Orbit said that they said, and I quote, "We can turn any airport into a spaceport because of this technology." So it's very, very interesting. And what they want to be able to do, ideally, is be able to respond to a customer's launch request within 24 hours. So they want to have the capability to say, somebody called, say, "I want to go to space tomorrow," and they can accommodate that. They don't need to set up all these big regulations, launch big rockets in the sky. they could just be off onto their flight. And they've
Why
also
does that give me the biggest smile?
That is so freaking dope.
That
Oh my
is so
goodness.
cool.
Are you kidding me?
In 24 hours, you want to be in space? I got you.
Boom. Money is your only barrier
I'm sorry,
to
Wyatt,
entry.
I had to cut you off.
Oh
but
my
millions,
goodness.
Like, that
it's
gave
millions
me the
and
biggest
millions
smile.
of dollars.
I don't even care. You don't have to go and be an astronaut anymore. Yo, you are a normal human man who now has the ability to say like, hey, I want to be in space tomorrow.
Well, okay, that's what they're trying to work towards. It's not. They don't have it.
Dude,
They don't have it yet. That's what
but
their
that
goal
is great goals. Great
Oh,
goals.
heck
And soon
yeah.
enough,
Amazing.
within 12
Their
hours.
other application is military, because they're currently speaking with the U.S., the U.K., and Canadian militaries for how to apply some of these things in terms of their rockets as well.
Oh yeah,
So-
without a doubt. Yeah.
If the Condor was able to get from LA to New York in less than an hour, like
Wasn't the Condor a hyperjet? One of those
It was. It got decommissioned because it's
supersonic jet.
Well,
So-
nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted to
Well,
pay the
no,
extra
it was
cost to fly
too
supersonic.
expensive. Exactly.
Right. Nobody.
But this is
nobody
what
really cared that
Virgin
much.
Galactic is doing. They are flying supersonic. They are flying at like the speed of sound. Easy.
Well, no. Well. So this is for commercialized spaceflight. This isn't for traveling. So the planes, I don't think they fly at supersonic. They just take their time. It's like a normal flight. They get up to the altitude, and the rocket takes off from there, and it actually launches up into the higher parts of the stratosphere to
Yeah.
literally cusp space at the Kaplan line, just above where the international recognition where space is.
Yeah, which is
that Kaplan level. And then they
amazing.
touch above that, and then they come back down. It's not designed for like super fast travel. It's designed literally to be like, do you want to go see space?
I
You
think
can see
he's.
space.
I think Jeremy's referencing to the fact that now people can just blow a bunch of money into a new way of transportation. The previous Condor
yeah,
was a way
definitely.
that rich people can just like literally dump stupid amount of money into just like going to a place, 5 times
But
faster than they
but
normally would.
But they found that that's why private jets are still alive and hybrid and supersonic jets aren't, because they found that the rich want luxury more than just a speeding bullet through the sky, because they can afford to have their drink and watch TV and just glide across international airspace.
I mean, they're
So,
solving a bunch of problems in astrophysics when it comes to the space stations, not space station, but the ability to even get up to the space station. The biggest trouble of getting a rocket is getting a rocket off the ground without exploding, without all the complications. If you're able to take it into a stratosphere and release it from there, not only are you saving a bunch of money on fuel, but you're also decreasing its ability to fail, because you're taking away what's the biggest problem with all these rockets, and that's gravity. You're decreasing the risk of gravity taking over the aircraft, and any little thing going wrong, they're eliminating a lot of problems. So if
All right, you ready for this? Are you ready for this?
blown away.
I just looked it up. Virgin Galactic top speed 2,485 miles per hour. Speed of sound
Isn't it like-
767
Yeah.
miles per hour. I'm talking about going 3.2 Mach speed. You trying to tell me they're not hitting Mach 1? No, they're hitting Mach 3 at their top speed. Come at
Right,
me.
but not for the purpose of transportation. Like for the purpose of space
Yeah,
flight,
yeah.
yes. But that's what I'm saying, because the what you referenced in terms of supersonic
Of course
jets
they're
as
gonna be
commercialized
working with the
travel,
military.
that business.
Oh
never
heck
worked.
yeah, dude!
Of course they're
Oh
gonna
my
be working
goodness!
with the
Well, no, but
military.
To be
They wanna be
launching
able-
missiles
in
off
their-
of space, like, come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah, in their report, it was to use to keep and store. These companies will keep and store extra rockets and be able to deploy
Oh,
them.
easy.
in
That was
faster-
an easy
faster
call.
ways.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I would love to be blowing rockets off of space. The amount of money I might be saving versus like utility and versatility. Whoo! Yeah, sorry. I'm just thinking from a military standpoint. But yeah,
I really want
absolutely.
to just go Mach 3. That actually sounds crazy.
It's the best freaking roller coaster I'd ever pay for.
All right then. So there you
Why
go.
it's just like, I don't want to be in there. Not Mach 3. I'm good.
I'll pass.
I'm good
No,
on
I
land.
I couldn't afford it anyway. But I'm glad you guys are so excited about
Why?
Virgin Orbit.
I will pay for your ticket on there if we ever just become trillionaires. I got you. Don't even worry about it. I got
we
you.
ever become trillionaires,
I'll still buy your
wouldn't
ticket.
Need you to pay.
No, I will buy your
wouldn't accept
ticket
it.
because
Oh, you
that
can
is
buy all the tickets you want.
that
You
is
leave
a
it in box on the
pettiness
front door,
that
I'm gonna light it on
that
fire.
is this transaction. I'd be like,
Oh, I would
White,
pay
I don't
for my
even
own
care if you
ticket
could
this
afford it. Here's your ticket.
And it's called The Rapture.
Well, I wouldn't ride anything called the Rapture because you're gonna die at the end, Jeremy. That's not a good. I
No,
wouldn't
you're
slow.
just
I wouldn't
being taken
advertise it that
away.
way. Would you like to be taken away in the Rapture? Yes, and I would love to pay lots
Or-
of millions of dollars to
or
die
the-
in the Rapture.
It's free for you.
Or it goes
Well,
so
if it's free,
fast
then
that
I
your
know I'm the
clothes get
product,
left
so-
behind. Get it?
You're the product.
But that's not how inertial frames work, Josh. My clothes don't. It's not like you just fly out of your clothes. Like it all comes with me. It's all the same frame of inertia.
Stop
Yeah.
making stuff up. That's not physics. Okay, next topic.
Inertial. I don't want to talk to you. So the next topic we're going to cover here is lumber prices fall by 40%.
Oh, great.
So lumber futures fell by more than 40% in June alone, which is the worst month. Which that means literal in magnitude of decline since 1978. So this is a good sign for the kind of to fight back against long-term non-transitory inflation in some ways, because it shows that customers are finally reacting to such prices, not buying as much because the price tag has finally got to a level where they really don't want to pay for it. And the thing is, we've had such a hot housing market. In April, new homes accounted for 1 in every 4 homes, where historically they only count for 1 in every 10 homes. So we were buying homes at 2.5 times the rate, wanting new homes to be made, which is probably a big byproduct of COVID and everybody wanting to live away from cities. So it seems that the bubble has burst in lumber. The peak was May 7th when there was an all-time high of about $1,670 per 1,000 board feet, which is 6 times higher than it was in April of 2020 during the pandemic's low. So it's definitely a very big difference in how much it soared. But it does look like the bubble has burst. But something to still look at is the CRB Raw Materials Index, which is still at a 10-year high. And the reason that some economists and analysts still look at that as helpful to kind of gauge how this plays out for inflation is that index tracks materials that are not traded on futures exchanges, which means that it's a better reflection of the actual supply and demand, because it literally just has to do with the actual amount that is being sold and purchased and used, as opposed to what market participants are speculating. Because again, futures and forwards markets are nothing more than every other market, completely 100% forward looking. So everything that you see is speculation on an asset's price into the future, not currently, because nobody values things today. They always value things tomorrow. Even discounted cash flows involve 5 years of growth expectations diluted to today's prices. So the whole concept is that there's definitely still lots of inflation, but it's a good sign. It's a good sign, at least in lumber, that's coming down. Hopefully it'll help work its way into the housing market, bring down some of those prices. It's still about 2 times higher than it normally should be, but definitely a good sign. So definitely a good sign in this regard. So we'll keep an eye on that. But lumber futures down 40% within the last month.
That's good. I know it was at too high of a price. So
Right.
to,
No, because we can grow
comparative
more
to the
wood.
universe, if we
But you
actually
can't-
did commerce with the universe, then we'd be like, all right,
Right,
then
but-
we could hike it up. Oh, dude,
No,
he
no,
sniped
but
us out so hard, but at the same
takes
time, I'm just
the
like,
amount of time it takes to make the amount of time it takes to pressurize minerals into making diamonds versus the time it takes to grow a tree are very different.
Dang it.
Um,
I was
would
muted during that
argue
whole
that-
time.
I would argue that there are more diamonds in the universe than
Wait.
there are trees.
Josh, did you say you were muted the entire time?
Yeah.
So you just said that whole spiel.
And then he just let it roll without listening to a single
Josh,
thing while we
on
just,
the
like-
Yeti there is a light. It blinks when no one can
I
hear
just saw
So you
that
have
it
to-
wasn't on.
You should get a camera that
No,
points just at
it's-
that
But
and
yeah.
a screen dedicated to
Pretty
that.
much all I said was that wood should be valued a lot higher than diamonds, seeing that its accessibility and its only place that it exists in the universe so far
That's
we
also-
know
yeah, that's also
is
not true.
here
That's
on
also
Earth.
saying
definitely
that
a planet
we're
out there
not
that's
even
more on it.
out there in the universe yet. So
And so why are we
Josh is just
using
usually
one of our
so
greatest
wrong. And
resources?
what Josh likes
Josh
to
is
do is
just
he likes to
like-
say infuriatingly incorrect things to see what I would say, and every time I'm
What?
gonna bite
Is that
lie
you?
because I want you to
Shots
know the
fired.
truth. Josh is a madman. He's a lunatic. Some of the things he says are crazy. Some of the things he says are very smart, but some of the things are just so infuriating. I just can't keep it down. I have to.
So let me.
It's like
ask
word
you-
vomit.
just spitting out lies upon lies. I can't allow it. Can't allow it.
What is this Amazon shenanigans? What is happening with Amazon nowadays?
So, thank you, Jeremy, for the nice segue. Yeah, so Amazon is requesting that the FTC chairwoman, Lena Khan, be recused in the antitrust investigations of Amazon. And the reason for this is because Lena Khan is an outspoken critic of not only big tech, because she was a part of the 16-month investigation that led Congress and everybody to say, the recommendation of lawmakers should step in to rein in big tech. But she has constantly spoken out against Amazon, saying that they are too big, saying that they are monopolies, saying they need to be taken apart. And then she was promptly appointed last month or in this month, I think it was during this month, actually by Joe Biden to be the fifth chairwoman on the FTC's board. So now that's a 3-2-1 split, 3 Democrat, 2 Republican. And what Amazon is trying to do is say, listen, there's no way that this director can give me a non-biased opinion or non-biased view of this case because she is such an outspoken critic of us. So she should be recused because it's a conflict of interest, because we already know that, and I think the wording they used in here was, under the, let me find it. I wrote it down here somewhere. Yeah. A reasonable observer would given her long track record of detailed pronouncements about Amazon and her repeated proclamations that Amazon has violated the antitrust laws, a reasonable observer would conclude that she no longer can consider the company's antitrust offenses with an open mind. That was the official statement from Amazon in a 25-page memo sent to the FTC for consideration. Wow. Now, it's important to note that under the FTC rules, if the commission brings an enforcement or rulemaking proceeding involving Amazon and Ms. Khan chooses to participate, the other commissioners would likely be able to decide on this motion from Amazon. So you're looking at a 2-2 split there, where the 2 Republican members of the committee generally are on far-reaching a different side than Ms. Khan. So you can definitely see that in a 2-2 split. I don't know how that would work, but you can kind of expect that would put a very difficult ability for them to push a lot of legislation through and for her to stay on the case. And even though very few challenges like this have actually resulted in a chairman or chairwoman being recused, there have been a fair number of cases, including big governmental cases, where after the ruling was passed down, the companies then brought up a case that said, listen, this person, it wasn't the argument about what they said in the case. They argued that the argument was that the chairwoman or chairperson should have been removed in the first place. So they were able to find a workaround and said, you can pass that ruling, but we'll just go ahead and set up a court case, and we can more easily prove you shouldn't have been a part of this, because it's much easier in that case to prove that you've said things in the past and you've made indications that you would be biased as opposed to non-biased. So that's kind of a workaround that they need to look at. I mean, I personally don't mind her on this board because, from my personal perspective, I think that tech companies are too big and need to be reined in, and it's a way to hide behind the law. But at the same time, it is objectively true that she probably does not have the most non-biased opinion, and therefore, based on legal rulings and based in a court of law, that may cause the FTC's rulings, if they reach one, to actually be unusable and could be retracted. So that is something to important. And she said in the past that when asked if requests came down for her recusal, what would she do? She said that she would consult with FTC ethics officials. So we'll have to see how all of that works out. We'll have to see what she decides to do. She has the first right to respond to this before it goes to any kind of voting or anything like that. So we'll see how this goes, but Amazon definitely wants that, because Amazon is currently a subject of a wide-ranging antitrust investigation. So, including the FTC, who just got the right to review their MGM purchase, that $10 billion purchase of the movie studio. So it's definitely in Amazon's best interest to have her and have it be a 2-2 split and have her taken off, recused for this investigation. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how they play this, and we'll see how she responds, and what happens going forward. But that's the newest development on the antitrust front.
Amazon is such a big company that I don't I don't find this surprising that they have more lawsuits,
Well, they've had
especially in
antitrust for a
antitrust.
while, but the problem is
Exactly.
no one's really been able to find it. And that 16-month panel they did investigated all the big tech and found that yeah, the recommendation was that lawmakers should step in to rein these in. It will need some lawmakers' help. So the only problem is actually proving that these monopolies and these huge companies are hurting consumers, because that's the traditional definition, or are hurting partners. And in reality, like I talked about yesterday, when Amazon wants pieces of the company, even though I view that as like buying companies without buying companies, getting more power over your competitors in the market. When you think about it, it's Amazon also locking up and saying, look, we'll buy up those shares after we've given you $8 billion worth of business. So it's going to be really tough to argue, because a lot of partners say, I actually like this. A lot of customers say, I love their services because they're so cheap to me. So it's really like what I'm seeing is just a very interesting kind of way to say
It's
we have found the way to show ourselves as the good guy while becoming big and powerful, and getting to a point where we're so big that we can actually exert real influence. But all the way up, we're going to look like these amazing people, and you're not going to be able to hit us with these laws. Very clever,
they're
very
they're
genius
they're in the
business plan.
long-term game. They're in the long-term game. They're trying to create a dynasty, and they're trying to show benefits for the short term, and that's going to make people happy for the time being until it's not enough for them anymore, and then they're going to realize what has happened, and that's going to take years for these small companies that Amazon is going to try buying up. But
This already
again,
happened with
Amazon is
Walmart.
in long
There's
term.
You can read the book called The Walmart Effect, and it discusses how Walmart kind of boxed its partners into getting the lowest possible prices and getting them to sell, how it convinced all their customers to come out, how it killed other competing businesses because it put them all out and said, you have to basically sell to us at these prices or you're not going to be able to make any business. So it's not the same thing. Like, you have to recognize, like, it's not the same thing, because a lot of people are benefiting. Partners are benefiting, consumers are benefiting. So it seems like everybody's winning. But when everybody's winning and some companies making trillions of dollars, that for me is a red flag. When everything looks perfect, that's how I know that there's something wrong, because nothing's ever perfect. No one ever just grows to balloon to own so much physical and digital infrastructure of the internet and become so significantly important in everyone's lives while everybody wins and they're for profit. Like, that just to me it just there's more going on here, and I definitely think it's a long-term goal, like Jeremy said.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
we're going to be looking into this further as this continues.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you all
Absolutely.
ready for some Robin Hood information?
Do we have one
I'm
more?
ready, bro. Yeah.
Wyatt, did you have one more topic?
No, that's it. I only got 3 today.
Oh, sweet.
The 4th topic in there was just I put that there in case anyone with lots of student loans was interested in looking at that.
Wait, something about student loans?
Well, just the stories about how a bunch of 1,300 schools, the government couldn't collect $1 billion worth of loans or debt from them, and that there was some people on the inside that raised flags and said, like, hey, you're not pursuing these companies as severely as you're pursuing all the student borrowers. So there really is an unequal playing field here. Like, you'll use collections agencies to rain harassment on people to get them to pay their student loans and garnish wages. But these big institutions that skirt their bills, like, there are plenty of fines and fees that haven't been paid that are just piling up. They just don't care. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of like, it was a very small article about the imbalance there, which I just thought was interesting because, it's
2008
well,
bailout.
it's just that they care more about the schools than they don't care about coming after the schools for the money. More so, they care about the individual borrowers. And I just, with the number of calls asking for there to be debt, not only debt suspension being continued, but also for there to be debt cancellation and forgiveness as a whole. I just think it's a very interesting debate about what side you're on it, and I think there's a lot of good arguments on both sides. But I definitely think schools will continue to get more expensive as long as we keep giving people free tickets to buy. And then if we hit people with huge loans and we suppress them with them and say, here's 50, 60, 100, $200,000 worth of loans. Yeah, you went to college, but you're gonna have to start your life off with that kind of debt. I think it definitely weighs down. The average payment's like $400 to $500 a month, and the average borrower owns over $10,000, with many people owing more than $100K. So it's just, if you've been following student debt, that's just an interesting little, kind of look into the system, being like, hey, what's going on under here? Like, look, more inequality. No shit.
So as someone who has
From the
student
government.
debt, does this benefit me in any way? As in
No,
is this
it
the
doesn't.
start? No.
No, it doesn't. The thing that's going to benefit you as a student borrower is that there's potential for, and it calls for for obviously for forgiveness of student debt as an entirety of an abolishment of the entire system, which again has a downside because you need to help people pay for schooling. But the argument is, well, free tickets have caused schools to price up themselves into insanity because they know the government will pay for it. So it's kind of a weird kind of cycle there. But if you're a student borrower, what will be helpful is that they might be continuing the suspension of debt into the next year, into March 2022. That's what's currently on the table that they want to push, but they haven't. So as of now, everything still starts coming due again in October, but that's something they're talking about. Is like, okay, let's suspend it again for another year.
Interesting.
Which I don't know if that's even a good thing either, too, because then you have 2 years of people not paying loans and those debts pile up, and even though you're not incurring interest, more people are still taking out student loans. So I don't know. It's a very, we'll have to do a whole podcast on it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, good stuff, Wyatt. Good stuff. Thank you. You ready, Jeremy?
It's finally my turn. Let's go.
I got one more thing, Josh. I got one more thing. Don't let Jeremy talk.
Darn it. Oh, gosh.
Should we take a little break?
I wanted to go through the multiplication table starting at 2 and go all the way to 12.
I knew it. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 20. What? 6? No. Take the break.
Cut to commercial, Josh. Cut to commercial quickly.
It's only going to take a couple of minutes unless Wyatt goes off on his rants. Robinhood to pay $70 million in settlement investigation. Now, FINRA has announced that it fined Robinhood $57 million and then ordered Robinhood to pay $12.6 million in restitution plus interest to thousands of customers for a total of $70 million. So this is the largest financial penalty ever ordered by FINRA. This does not have to do with the restrictions that Robinhood put on trading of shares in late January. So don't mix that up. That's going to be a totally different lawsuit. And I hope it's way more than $70 million. Rather, it has to do with allegations that the brokerage misled the customer. So Robinhood displayed inaccurate cash balances, such as FINRA brought up Alex Kearns. If you don't remember Alex Kearns, he was a customer who died of suicide after he saw an inaccurate display of lost money in his account. So he saw it, he was doing options trading, he was distraught, endgame. Inaccuracies of cash, risk of loss, margin calls, and more are what the allegations that the brokerage misled customers to do. This was in litigation. They also approved ineligible traders for risky strategies, such as options trading. Some people just, options trading is a derivative, and there's a lot that goes into it. And if they are uninformed, they shouldn't be practicing in the option strategies. But Robinhood, along with their large amounts of, let's say you put in $5,000, some people were able to use $100,000 in leverage. And let me tell you, when a 16-year-old has that kind of leverage, they're going to try and use it. They're all like, oh my gosh, I put $5,000 in, I have $100,000 to play with. They're going to try using it and figure it out. That's just another misleading that Robinhood has done. It's negligence on their part. And another thing that really brought this whole litigation to fruition was the system outages of March 2020 that locked up millions of trades. And let me just tell you, their business valuation is $20 billion. That's their business valuation for 2020. Their revenue, $673 million. So let's say $70 million hit. They're barely taking a haircut over there. And their total transactions for 2020, their volume is $350 billion. So with 13 million users, if you lock up trades because your system fails, that is money being lost from millions of users. That is just, they're not going to bring it back. What? $12.6 million in restitutions. I can guarantee you that there is more lost in the time in which their systems were down because the stock market swings. And some people, most of the time, these guys, Robinhood gives them too much leverage to play with, and they go down fast. So Robinhood neither admits nor denies these allegations. They're not gonna admit any of this. They're just gonna accept the settlement because they don't want to put it on record that they're wrong about this. So they just accepted the settlement, and if this would have gone to court, you better know that they would have paid much more than what was actually than the fine that was put to them in the settlement. So glad to see that FINRA is going after them, but they are still the little guy. I would like to see them start going after, I don't know, against bigger guys that have been doing worse, more fraudulent activities in the market. And hopefully in the coming year we'll see more of this occurring, but that is nowhere close to them Robinhood cutting off trades in late January of 2021. So we're going to see that litigation come through, and you best be knowing that we're going to be covering it.
More to speak on that as it comes up.
Yep. And this all is following suit because guess what's happening? Robinhood's IPO is coming up. Yeah, it was supposed to take off this month. They got delayed by the SEC because they are providing cryptocurrencies on their platform, and they don't even know if they want to put that in the NYSE on the stock market with cryptos. So I don't know. I feel like MicroStrategy, who is already on the NYSE, is already a huge proponent for these large institutions to be in crypto, but they're gonna, again, pick on the little guy. Robinhood, they're trying to IPO. They have cryptocurrencies that sell to these others, to the retail investor, and that's why they're delaying it on that. Do I like Robinhood at the moment? No, I really don't. Before I did, because they were giving free trades. They seemed like they were for the retail investor, but we all know that they're actually for the bigger guys. So it's unfortunate. But
boo, Robinhood, boo.
Boo. In other news, which is the same as finance, the reverse repo hit a new time high, so close to $1 trillion. It is at $991.9 billion.
Oh
That
my
is
goodness.
all. That is with 90 participants. 90 participants opted in and gave the Federal Reserve $991 billion. And let me tell you, tomorrow morning, they're getting $495 million back in interest for overnight reverse repos. So we're going to be keeping track
Great
on
to
this
be
number.
a big bank, man, and be your friends.
And
Great
their
to be
friends. They have too much liquidity. They don't know where to put it. They're putting it with the Fed. The Fed is giving them a award for it. So we're going to be keeping track.
What's really shitty about that is that the Fed has already said the banks are fine. There's plenty of liquidity. We don't need any more liquidity. And the bank's like, but we'll just keep throwing more money at you. Like,
you know what? It's only $495 million. I know that you top three big banks like JP Morgan and all these other two banks, Goldman Sachs, I believe, they did a bond sale in April, which was around $16 billion, averaging around $15 billion each that they just sold off in bonds. So why are they getting more money? I don't know. They have enough liquidity. They have too much liquidity. They don't know where to park it. They're parking it with the Feds. And this is only going to continue.
Yeah. I agree. We'll continue for a while. Fed wants to raise rates and try to taper off over the next I don't know when the tapering off will begin. I know interest rates won't rise in the next 2 years, roughly. So I don't know when the tapering off begins, but we'll probably start tapering off anytime now. We're doing pretty damn good. I don't, yes, the inflation's bad, but you're just giving money away to people. You're just backstopping and backstopping and backstopping. I think we botched COVID the government botched COVID as a whole. And then what do? They're going to botch the recovery because they're like, oh my God, the only thing we can do is spend. We're in the world where all of our problems can be solved by spending and giving money. Stupid. The institutions are fine. The people that run them need adjusting. People that make these policies, that are allowed to make these policies, that are allowed to, they all need to be flushed out. It's too much. It doesn't make any sense. There's no justification for it, and all the banks are doing is beefing up their dividends and their buybacks. They're not giving that money to me and to you guys and your bank accounts. They're just like, hey, we'll buy back our stock, real nice. Yeah, we'll give up more dividends, great, and then we'll just keep making more money for returns. Like, really, you just have so much money, unbelievable.
So much money.
Unbelievable.
But that's all for my segment.
And with that, that is Random Rabbit podcast number 13 coming to an end. Guys, if you've missed any of this podcast, we throw up all the videos up within 24 hours. You can go by our YouTube. Link is in the bio in whatever platform you're using. I have no idea, but find us on Random Rabbit. As soon as you type it into YouTube, we start popping up. And so if you missed any part, the cryptocurrency part, the news, politics, economics part, if you missed the stock market part, everything, all our past videos are on our YouTube. Wow, I think my voice cracked. I'm that excited. And we're just excited to have you guys here. We're excited that you guys joined us. Come back tomorrow. We're going to be closing up the week or the market and seeing exactly where we lie. Everything's been compounding on stuff. I like that word because the more we do this, the more we start seeing the patterns and how news is flowing. And so if you guys are finding value in this, definitely subscribe, join us, ask questions. We'd love your questions. We'll answer all your questions on YouTube, even the bots, the fake ones. I'll answer those because
that's what Josh will do all day. Josh answers the bots.
Bots,
good friends.
Bots, you guys have my heart, and so I'll answer you all day. You repeat the same question over and over. I don't even care.
I'm just gonna start
I'll give a different
all
answer.
The things that Josh replies to, I'm just gonna delete the base comment, not the reply. I'm just gonna delete all of Josh's bot friends.
Oh, not my friends.
Not the friends.
But
I've been to all their channels. There's nothing there.
There's at least one person subscribed, and it's me.
There's at least one human. I got at least one human.
All right, we got one.
All right, guys. This is Random Rabbit Wyatt, Random Rabbit Jeremy. Thank you very much. You guys, excellent every single time. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your pets. And with that, we are out. Peace out.